Good afternoon. My name is Celebrant Karen Bonificino from Greco Funeral Home, and I would like to welcome you all to the celebration of life for Kathy Pratt. My friends, we are gathered today to honor, remember, and to speak about Kathy, a wonderful woman who lived a vibrant, full life, a woman who loved and was loved by many people. Today, you, this group of family and friends, are here to celebrate Kathy. You are here to remember the love, the laughter, and the good times that you shared with her. You are here to acknowledge who she was and what she meant to you. And you have come to be present with her loss and with one another as a community. As we begin, I would like to offer you my personal condolences. And I know that Kathy's health was not good leading up to her death, and that her passing was not entirely unexpected, but that does not lessen the impact of her loss. Grief is grief. We must give it an outlet. And in many ways, that is exactly what we are doing here today. In terms of my participation, I confess I met Kathy on several occasions here at the nursery, but I did not know her personally. However, it is through her son Greg and his wife Christy, through her husband Dick and her sister Jan, that I have gotten to know her a little bit. And it has been my great pleasure to learn about Kathy, about this kind, compassionate, empathetic woman whom you all loved so much, about this happy, funny, entertaining woman who loved to be in the spotlight, and about this dedicated, devoted, hardworking woman who gave so much to this garden center, her customers, her husband, family, and friends, most of all. Our celebration today has a number of elements in it: poetry, music, and reflections on Kathy's life. I invite you to settle in, take a deep breath if you need one, and know that regardless of whatever else is happening in the world, you are exactly where you are supposed to be right now. At this time, I would like to invite Kathy's daughter-in-law, Christy, up.
Thanks for your patience. So before I read this, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of background. After Kathy passed, we were going through a lot of memorabilia. We're going through a lot of pictures, and we came across this poem that I'm about to read, and it was kind of perfect, the timing of it, because when we flipped it over, I will read it to you. It says, "I want this read at my demise celebration." So I thought it was perfect to come up here and read it all for you. I do believe that it is a very great way to remember that Kathy is trying to give us a message of how she wants to be remembered. So maybe, think about that as you're hearing the words, and hopefully her message will be living on with all of you. Sing my song to children dancing and lovebirds soaring from the nest to the moon. Tell my story to jasmine twining and willows swaying in long summer sun. Look for me in peaceful eyes of mothers and their faces of their babies in contented sleep. Remember me in quiet nights of winter and mornings of new flowers, dreaming of spring.
Thank you, Christy. So as I begin my talk, I'm going to repeat the last line of that poem. It says, "And mornings of new flowers, dreaming of spring." As we are gathered here today at RP Nursery, I find myself asking, how many springs was Kathy here dreaming of flowers? How many springs was she here planning, organizing, excited with the newness of the season, the promise of customers returning, and flowers, life and beauty filling the garden center and the world once again. By my calculations, it was somewhere between 35 and 40 springs that she was here. Decades of springs, decades of serving this community in the best way that she knew how, and how grateful we all are for it and for her. Kathy was such a unique human being. I don't have to tell all of you that. She was such a one-of-a-kind person that it's hard to know where to begin when speaking about her life. But since her husband and her family were her foundation, I think I'd like to start there. In the mid to late 1970s, Kathy and her young son, Greg, were living in a duplex apartment in Westchester, Pennsylvania. The two of them had been a unit for a few years, Kathy as a single mom raising her boy on her own. Her future husband, Dick Pratt, came into her life on a fateful New Year's Eve when Dick showed up for dinner at his cousin's apartment in Westchester, only to find that his cousin had also invited the woman who lived upstairs, Kathy. Not surprisingly, the two of them hit it off right away, and Dick said to me, right from the start, there was something there. 2 months later, unable to forget about this woman who he had met on New Year's Eve, Dick showed up at her apartment one day, and that was it. They were basically inseparable from that point on, and the two of them were then married in 1979. When it came to their relationship, Dick and Kathy were a good match, a really good match. In all their years together, according to the family, they never spent more than 48 hours apart. They loved to just spend time together, whether it was at their house in Deltaville, Virginia, or going for car rides on Sunday afternoons after the garden center closed, or working together, which, let's face it, not every couple can do. They were husband and wife and best friends. Would that we could all be so lucky. When it came to her son, Greg, when it came to her son, I asked Greg if Kathy was a strict mom who made him clean up his room and do his homework and chores and those kinds of things. And the response that I got was, hardly. As you can imagine, Kathy was more the playful mom, the fun-loving mom, the one who laughed and sang with her child. And these qualities were not shared just with Greg, but with his girls, Ashley and Kayla, when they came along. Greg explained that Kathy actually took care of the girls on weekday mornings for several years when they were little. He would drop them off at her and Dick's house around 7 o'clock in the morning, and she would keep them for 2 or 3 hours and then take them to daycare before she went to the garden center. She and Dick both were very involved in helping to raise them, Greg said, and Kathy's love of singing was passed down and became Kayla and Ashley's love of singing, among other things. Now, I believe we are going to hear from Kathy's sister, Jan, today as part of our celebration. So I will let Jan share about their childhood and their younger brother, Bill, and all the wonderful times that they had as siblings. But at this point, I would like to shift gears and talk about RP nurseries. According to Dick and the family, the nursery started here on the property in the mid-1980s with a wagon down the lane that had plants on it and a shed that was not much more than a 12 by 15 foot room with a loft above for an office. Each year, Kathy added to what was offered from the previous year, more plants, more shrubs. More flowers, more trees, pottery, greenhouses. And in the early 1990s, when the house at the front of the property no longer had tenants in it, that's when the gift shop took up residence and where it remains. Dick said the garden center was her vision, and she built it to what it is today. So for those of you who have never been in a line of work where you have to keep living things alive, and in this case, I'm talking about plants, there are really no days off and no holidays unless you've got good staff to cover for you. A business like a garden center is 7 days a week, and that is pretty much what Kathy's schedule here was. She was a self-taught gardener and grower and was passionate and enthusiastic about everything related to gardening. And when it came to the gift shop, she loved choosing and curating the items for sale in it, whether it was the wonderful selection of gift cards available or items for the home and garden. Kathy had great taste, and everyone knew they could always find something unique there. But let's face it, stopping to pick up a plant or an item from the gift shop was not the only reason why so many people stopped by RP Nurseries. Kathy herself was a major draw. As was said in one of the condolences on her obituary page, chatting with Kathy about plants and life was like visiting an old friend. And that sentiment was repeated over and over again on that page. People stopped by the nursery because Kathy was always happy to see them, happy to have a joke or a laugh with them, happy to chat and just spend some time. As Dick said to me, Kathy didn't just bring the customers in, she kept them coming back. Now, at this point, I've been talking about Kathy for going on 10 minutes, and I have just barely scratched the surface. I have not really gotten into her love of singing and entertaining people, nor have I mentioned cats. I have not talked about the tomato plants and the eggs from the chickens and the other wonderful little gifts that she loved to give people. I have only briefly mentioned her sense of humor and her amazing capacity to not just engage people, but to get along with everybody. So I'm going to trust that those of you who choose to speak during our time of sharing will fill in some of those gaps. On March 8th, just 1 month ago, Kathy's struggles with kidney disease were finally over. The last couple of years in particular had been extremely hard on her as her health declined overall, and she had several stints in the hospital for various things. Through it all, as Greg shared with me, his mom never lost her sense of humor, nor, according to Dick, was she ever bitter about her condition. My friends, I do not need to tell you that you have been blessed to have this woman, Kathy Pratt, in your lives, but I'm telling you anyway. This woman who was unapologetically herself has given you a very clear example of what it looks like to live with authenticity and purpose. This woman who was playful and goofy has given you a very clear example of what it looks like to not take yourself or your life too seriously. This woman who was genuinely understanding and caring has given you a very clear example of what it looks like to show up for other people with your whole heart and your whole self. As I wrap up, I would like to leave you with a final quote. It is one of my favorites, and it says this: "Be the things you loved the most about the people who are gone." And I will say that again. Be the things you loved the most about the people who are gone, which is another way of also saying imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? There is so much about Kathy that is worth imitating and emulating, and each of you gets to decide what that looks like in your own lives. May you find healing and peace on that journey, knowing that so much of Kathy's love and spirit is still right here with you and will remain. Thank you. We, at this time, have an audio clip of Kathy and Greg singing together. Kathy is playing guitar, and Greg is about 7 years old. Please enjoy.
Still there are times my heart feels like breaking, and anywhere is where I'd rather be. Oh, and in the nighttime, I know that it's the right time to hold you close and say I love you so. Have someone to share with, someone I can care with, and that is why I wanted you to know. Sometimes I feel like a sad song, like I'm all alone without you. I know that life goes on just perfectly, and everything is just the way that it should be. Still, there are times when my heart feels like breaking, and anywhere is where I'd rather be. Oh, and in the nighttime, I feel that it's the right time to hold you close and say I love you so. To have someone to share with, and someone I can care with, and that is why I wanted you to know. Sometimes I feel like a sad song, like I'm all alone without you, without you.
So beautiful. Thank you. So, as you have heard me speak, I have shared the broad brushstrokes of Kathy's life, but clearly you are all the ones who knew her best. And so it's always wonderful to have a time in the service when we get to hear from some of you. And I believe we have some family members who are going to start us off.
Goodness. Hi, I'm Kathy's sister. Oh, yes.
For the recording.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's the first time I've heard that. And it's lovely, sweet, beautiful voices. When Kathy was in hospice and unconscious in Chester County Hospital, the things I wanted to say to her centered around memories of our childhood. Maybe part of that was because as little girls, we often visited the hospital with our grandfather, who was the chief engineer there for many years. We rode on the elevators, took turns on the old-fashioned wooden wheelchairs, and we visited the nursery where the babies lay swaddled in their bassinets. In fact, Kathy was born in Chester County Hospital, and her parents wanted me to think that I could choose the baby I wanted to bring home. They had her dressed in frills and bows to entice me, but I was drawn to and insisted on the adorable black baby in the bassinet next to hers. Needless to say, we laughed about that all of our lives. But because no one here knew her like I did as a child, I want to give you a picture of her and us and who we were together. Kathy, before her wildly curly hair and her broad shoulders, had straight white blonde hair that framed her round little face. Because Daddy cut her hair, our bangs were always crooked. Her eyes really did sparkle. In every picture of the two of us going to Sunday school, she appears to have on white gloves 3 sizes too big. Mother's gloves, I'm sure, as Kathy was always losing hers. Mismatched tees and shorts were our summer attire. She loved braids and ponytails and party dresses. We grew up in a 3-bedroom house, a 1-bath house in Richmond, Virginia. We shared a bedroom and a set of maple twin beds where we laughed, whispered, or giggled ourselves to sleep every night. On our living room floor, we read our comic books and the Sunday funnies. We played Old Maids, Go Fish, Clue, Chinese checkers. The object didn't seem to be to win, but to make the other laugh with our purposefully outrageous methods of cheating. In the living room, we had our best ever Christmas when we both got our Tiny Tears dolls and the little bed that our beloved grandfather had made for us. Whew. We sang at the piano, trying to nudge the other slightly off the bench so that the other one had the piano to herself. We loved to hear Mother and Daddy sing together, and Kathy was the one who could harmonize with them to Moon River and Harvest Moon and Sweet Kentucky Babe. In that living room, we put on shows for our parents or visiting friends. Kathy, because of her blonde hair, argued that she deserved the leads. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, she always got the part. She was the brave one. If we woke up too early and it was still dark, she wasn't afraid, like I was, to go to the unlit kitchen to see the time. In the rough ocean at the Outer Banks, she was always 3 or 4 feet ahead of me, stretching out her hand, calling me to join her. A natural daredevil, she was the first to get up on water skis. Once in our neighborhood, when we were collecting money for the March of Dimes before the polio vaccine, some older boys surrounded us and tried to take our money. She whipped out her jump rope, swung it around her head, and drove them off. As children of very liberal parents, but growing up in the 1950s South, she and I always marched to the back of the bus where blacks were required to sit, daring the bus driver to tell us to move to the back. And Kathy was a funny little girl. Our parents always laughed when she speedily recited the last names of the presidents, imitated a British accent, impersonated Jerry Lewis, or sang in a super high falsetto, Snow White's I'm Wishing for the One I Love. Because she knew it was funny and absurd, she named all of our precious tiny kittens after Charlie Weaver's characters in his Letters from Mount Ida. Names like Ludlow Bean, Grandpa Og, Elsie Crack, and Gomar Cool's boy. Our parents had a great sense of humor, especially our mother, a Lucille Ball kind of character who often found herself in one funny situation after another. And so Kathy and I came to see the world as ripe for laughter. Kathy could do handstands, cartwheels, and backbends. Jump rope and hopscotch were our favorite front sidewalk games. Of all of her friends, she could jump the highest over the fence in the front yard. We both took tap and ballet at Miss Wells' School of Dance, but she graduated up to toe and eventually danced with the Richmond Civic Ballet. She was so proud of her real toe shoes, the lamb's wool that had to be put in the toe itself, and the way her toes might bleed a little from being on point. Like carefree pagans, we would visit Belly Flopper Town in the nearby woods. The tangle of vines and undergrowth provided a trampoline for pure fun as we bounced between earth and sky. Our woods were carpeted with what we called fairy tree moss and bunches of pale blue forget-me-nots. We built forts, picked raspberries in the summer, cut pine boughs at Christmas, and knew every trail that led down to the sandy-bottomed creek. Across its banks where trees had fallen, like tightrope walkers, we tiptoed to the other side. Kathy usually led the way. Through all of those childhood adventures, as Dylan Thomas writes in Fern Hill, time held us green and golden in the mercy of his means. But time did pass and childhood ended. And after it ended, Kathy and I lived to have 60 or more years together. To shriek and scream and sob with laughter, to sing together at the piano or in the car, or on a porch in Maine, to hate and love each other, as sisters will do. But right now, I'm leaving her in the woods of our childhood and closing with this poem by Mary Oliver. By Mary Oliver, called Sleeping in the Forest. Okay. I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her dark skirts, her pockets full of lichens and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed, nothing between me and the white fire of the stars but my thoughts. And they floated light as moths among the branches of the perfect trees. All night I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. All night I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with a luminous doom. By morning, I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better. Hi, I'm Gretchen. I'm Kathy's niece. This is just brutal, but this one's a little lighter. I wrote a few words for Kath. It's not enough words. I can never have enough words about what a bright life she was in my life. But this is what I have. Kathy. She is tangerine and coral on her lips. She's wild curly hair. She's cigarettes and nail polish, curling irons. She's the quintessential aunt, my Barbie's name. She's the red VW bug I was allowed to steer while sitting on her lap. She's cats and kittens. She's sea glass and shells, over rover, under thunder in the waves. She's in the back seat, windows down, on the way to the beach, playing her guitar. She's Rennie's pickles and lemon butter. She's my mother's sister. I watch their love, their hilarity and shenanigans. Kath is under the table now, eyes squeezed tight, giggling. We laugh so hard our sides hurt. I know I want to be here because she is here. I see her through the eyes of a child, a teen and an adult, but the focus is the same. Kathy is laughter, she is love, she is mine. She is everything happy and good.
Thank you, Jan and Gretchen. Yeah, beautifully said. I'm now going to open the floor to anyone who would like to share a few words. Maybe some of you worked with Kathy, maybe some are old friends or new. Maybe we have more family members who would like to speak. If you can just keep your remembrances brief, because we have a lot of people here. I'm not sure how many would like to speak, but we would love if anyone would like to grace us with a few words. Yeah.
I have an irrepressible need to find humor in any situation, positive or not so positive. And so hearing that there were gaps that you wanted filled in your life, I thought I'd fill one. Kathy and I shared a rather irreverent sense of humor, perverse a bit. And so I'm reminded of all the raucous times and fun times we had in Key West. And the first time I ever hugged Dick was to rescue him from a drag queen in a gay bar. So that reminded me, and the last time I gave him a hug was early this week as he's traveling through this difficult time. And he reminded me how I tend to, he wasn't directing at me, but how I tend to take things for granted and realize that you do that at your own peril because friends and family mean a lot more to you than you realize on a daily basis. So,
Thank you.
Karen, just emphasize that they use the ring.
I will.
Kathy worked for my husband for a number of years, and I always blamed her for our marriage. Because, she knew and saw things in him, and I guess in me, that made her feel we would be good together, and we have been. So I just have to say that something I feel so indebted for my happiness. So please bear with me. The fairest flowers shall spring where she lies, safe above the waters swirl. She has crossed the bar. Earth has lost a precious pearl. Heaven has gained a star that shall ever sing and shine for my beloved friend. Kathy, I miss you so much.
Don't mind me. I know my face is like a cherry right now. Hi, I'm Olivia. If some of you don't know me, I'm best friends with Ashley and Kayla. You couldn't tell Kathy that I wasn't her grandchild because she wouldn't believe you because I was always with them. Some of my fondest memories were going to the Outer Banks with their family and just having the best time. The world really has lost a really beautiful woman. No one will ever be like her. I always have said it. No one can be like her. She was amazing. One memory I have is we used to play, her sister talked about the board games that she loved, and we always played board games. We played Taboo, we played charades, we did all this stuff at the Outer Banks. We always had a game night, and it was the funnest thing. The one time we played Taboo, and you get a category and you kind of have to the other team has to guess what it is without using certain words. So I remember the one time we said, "Oh, you're gonna get it. It's something Richard loves. He loves it. You have to get it." And she said, "What, alcohol? What is it? Alcohol? I don't know." And I'm not kidding you, we were on the floor crying for like an hour. It just was the funniest thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I will never forget her. She was the best. So I'm so glad I got to know her. Thank you.
What was it?
Oh, it was like Westerns or something. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan. And Kathy gave me my first job when I was nearly 13 in a career that I'm very, very grateful to be in. And I will never be able to thank her enough for that. But I will say, because of her wicked sense of humor, I did just want to say that I think that her laugh and the way she could just make anyone completely lose any sense of composure was probably one of the greatest gifts. Whether it's when the rooster she had dubbed Satan chased me from this very spot halfway around the nursery and into the front door of the shop, to which I ran in and slammed the door and screamed, "Satan's after me!" To which, I kid you not, they must have been nuns, were in the gift shop. And Kathy's face just dropped. And so I just go back to her incredible smile and laughter. And the other one was when Ashley and Kayla, when you were very, very little, and she was sitting on the porch, and who lets a 13-year-old plant or a 15-year-old plant an acre of a garden? Kathy. And I was in the garden weeding, and she was taking care of you on the front porch, and I happened to accidentally weed a snake, which terrified me, and I accidentally did a backflip somersault over the fence. And when I stood up, she was bowled over laughing, holding you two on the porch, trying not to fall off the porch. And so I just will never, ever, ever forget her laugh and her smile and how she was a force for all that is good and for everyone and everything she loved.
Good evening, everybody. So when I was 5 years old, I remember my mother brought me here to this wonderful nursery, and I walked in and it was just jaw drop. I mean, it was an amazing spot, and I remember it being a very emotional spot for me where I learned to cherish plants and agriculture. And I remember when I was 12 years old, she offered me my first job. And it was the most wonderful thing in my life because she taught me how to be a hard worker, a good man, and to just cherish life and remember with gusto, I guess. But you know, it's extremely hard for me to hear of her passing, and I was very upset. But I'm just so thankful to have been able to know such a wonderful woman who instilled such a bright life in me. And throughout my summers working here, she just had such an astronomical impact on me. And what's wonderful is I've actually pursued agriculture as a career, and thus working with Louis Bernard. I saw you back there somewhere. But yes, so she just had such an impact, and I feel that she made me the hard worker I am today, and I'm very, very grateful for her. So thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Morgan Boyle, and I'm Greg's roommate from college. So I've known Kathy for quite a while, and haven't been over here all the time, but I just remember the first time I met Kathy, just feeling peace and the humor that she has. Always enjoyed being around her, and even though I'm so far away, Kathy and Dick, you've always been on my mind every day. I think about you guys because I consider you my family, and I used to have a crush on Kathy too, and sorry, Dick. But you know, she's gone, but she's still here. She's gonna be looking out for everybody, and I just wish you guys the best.
Hi, my name's Arthur Sless, and I knew Kathy way back. I was a psychiatrist in my earlier age, and she was applying for a job, and she came and talked to me. I don't remember much about the interview other than she taught me how to tie a knot with a cherry stem in her mouth. That's why I hired her. So, she was somebody, I have Oliver Sacks type of thing where I don't recognize names and remember names. So her job was to introduce me to my patients. She'd say, "Oh, Mary's here today," and she did it very nicely. Besides seeing her at the office, she would have a monthly sort of meeting with some of the other staff, and we would come and we would play games, and it was a wonderful experience. So this was all pre-Dick. Once he came and she left and she came with this life. We continued to see her, and me and my wife, we went to dinner frequently. We also took a number of trips, and I think my wife mentioned that she also convinced her to become my wife, which I was very happy about. So we would go to dinner with her and Dick on a pretty regular basis, and we miss her terribly. Thank you.
I've known Kathy for many years. I worked with her in 1988. I had met her earlier at the hospital, and then when I not retired, but stopped working at the hospital, I came here and worked with Kathy for a year. And I'll tell you about my first customer. The trees were hanging over there, and there was a big, beautiful 12-foot tree, and Kathy's pointing out the trees to me, and she said, you know, you can talk to the customers. And of course, I didn't have experience talking to customers, but somebody pulled in, and a lady came out, and she's looking around, and she's looking at the biggest trees. So I'm standing with her, and I'm trying to, you know, touch the branches, and I didn't know what to say. It was my first customer. So anyway, I looked in the tree, and there was a bird's nest. And I went, "Oh, there's a bird's nest." And Kathy goes, where? And she comes running over, and Kathy said, "That's good luck." And the customer said, "I'll buy it." I mean, it was a big tree. So that was my first sale. I miss her so much. Oh, okay, real fast. Dick said I have to tell the story about getting stuck in the outhouse. And I'm not sure I remember the whole story. I remember being stuck. I remember Dick's dad didn't want to help me get out of there. He said, "You have to get out on your own." I said, no, I'm stuck in here and it's hot. But anyway, he eventually, Dick's dad, helped me get out of the outhouse.
I think we could be here for 3 days. In the interest of time, unless there is someone who is...
We're going to close it with one more family.
Okay, go for it. That's what I was going to say. One more, please.
Family.
Perfect.
Okay. Kathy's nephew. She called me Tommy. I've been asked to read this poem. This poem is called The Long Boat by Stanley Kunitz, and it uses the image of a Viking funeral. The Vikings were accustomed to put their noble men and women in a long boat and push that boat out to sea. And I think the meaning of this poem is that no matter how glorious or courageous your life has been, that death is a release from the pain of life and the struggle. And we should take some solace in that, and the tears that we shed for ourselves, and that Kathy is truly in a better place. My earliest memories, Kathy is in my earliest memories. And I was always excited to hear that she was coming to visit. And sitting in that red VW next to her was truly an adventure. Watching her use the gear shift was better than any video game ever would be. And when I was a teenager, she always encouraged me to follow my interests and hobbies passionately. And one time she said to me very famously, "I don't have a single regret in life." And I believed it, and I believe it today. She was fierce. She was loyal. If you've ever read the Iliad or the Odyssey, you know what I mean when I say she was as generous as a Greek hero. If you ever saw her throw her head back and roar with laughter, exultantly and boisterously, you would know she was worthy of a Viking funeral. So here's the poem. When her boat snapped loose from its mooring under the squeaking of the gulls, she tried at first to wave to her dear ones on shore, but in the rolling fog, they'd already lost their faces. Too tired even to choose between jumping and calling, somehow she felt absolved and free of her burdens, those mottos stamped on her name tag: conscience, ambition, and all that caring. She was content to lie down with the family ghosts in the slop of the cradle, buffeted by the storm, endlessly drifting. Peace, peace, to be rocked by the infinite, as if it didn't matter which way was home, as if she didn't know she loved the earth so much she wanted to stay forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Clearly, the storytelling and the sharing does not end here. I encourage you all to continue to tell stories today, in the weeks, months, and years to come. And here's something I like to remind folks at an occasion like this. You cannot make a grieving person more sad by saying the name of the person who is gone. You will actually have the opposite effect. When you say the name Kathy to Dick or Greg or Jan or any other of the close family members who are here today, you will be reminding them of her life, not of her death. So please continue to reach out to them going forward. They're going to need your love and support. They're going to need to know that you're thinking of them and thinking of her. And don't ever hesitate to say Kathy's name to them. You will make their day. You will make their day. So that's my plug. And as we come towards the end of our service, I just want to thank you all for being here. I know it means the world to Dick and Greg and the family that you have all come out this afternoon. This gathering, a gathering like this, is a really important step in the grief journey. In many ways, it's the first step. And my hope is that the stories and the love that is here in this garden center today stays with all of you going forward. I also just want to mention one more thing. Greg shared with me that there is a corner in the garden center, apparently right here, right behind where I'm standing, that has been referred to over the years as Carolyn's Corner in reference to a former employee. And it has been decided that this corner will now be dedicated as Kathy's Corner, and there will be a sign saying so. So you can keep an eye out for that, and Kathy's Corner will be here. And so we have a final offering and some intentions to close our service. Spirit of love, we thank you for our time here together, remembering our departed family member and friend, Kathy Pratt. We are grateful for the opportunity to come together as a community to support one another and bear witness to our loss. We commend Kathy into your care and fold her in peaceful rest. Hold her tenderly in your embrace of light, where she is fully healed and safe, perfect and whole as you created her. Spirit of life, be present to us in our time of sorrow. Help us to emerge from our grief stronger and more certain that love is eternal and joins us forever beyond time and space and physical form. Help us to know that in the circle of eternity, in the light of your boundless grace, we will all meet again. May it be so, and thank you. Our service is now ended. You are all invited to stay, have some food, some drinks, a time of fellowship. And I know there's pictures and a slideshow and all kinds of wonderful things in the greenhouse next door. So please stay, and thanks again, all of you, for being here.